Elohim, little g gods, and dragons. Part 3. All right, so this is the God called Jehovah. So I left off in part 2 about how the war is going to begin with these dragons coming back. You can expect in 2025 a whole lot of UFO dragon kind of stuff happening. So, little g God called Jehovah, that is a dragon. He is going to destroy the people in that timeline that is following what they think is a god. They're following a dragon. So, the people here, the Babylonians, they claim is just as strong. In other words, the Babylonians also have a god. Whatever they call them, doesn't matter what name. They're all dragons. Okay, bottom line, everything in the Old Testament is a dragon. Now, the Babylonians think that their dragon, their so-called God, is more powerful than the Israelites' God, dragon. And so they worship, another different God. This can be further understood, right? You've got to get the Septuagint. You guys know I work from a lot of different Bibles. I'm always comparing, making sure I'm getting the most accurate translation because this stuff is constantly edited. All right, so in the Septuagint, there is a book called Bel and the Dragon. Bel, B-E-L, Bel and the Dragon, who they keep in the deepest recesses of this enormous multi-layered tent that is shrouded by darkness and smoke, who needs daily food offerings, of which Daniel exposes the lie. There's not a dragon in the tent. The dragon's not eating the food. There's a group of 70 priests that come along every day and eat the food. All right, so Daniel exposes all of that. Again, just more pagan stuff. The entire Old Testament is all pagan. It's all dragon-based. Now, read that. If you got a Septuagint, read it. Then go read Numbers 31. From this lens, you will see all of this. When your eyes no longer have scales on them, keeping you from seeing the supernatural dragons, that's over your head every day. Guys, I take videos. Now, mostly, today's another day of chemtrails. Most of the time, I never leave the house. When I do leave the house, I do it when there's no chemtrails so that I can constantly take videos. Follow me on Instagram. That's where those videos are mostly placed. Instagram, my handle is paranormal_queen. Anyway, that's where almost all my videos, which is dragon related or supernatural related, that's where I post that stuff. So they're over our head all the time. All the time. Just video a plane or a helicopter in the sky. You'll see a dragon will fly close to it all the time, every 5 minutes. Everything's monitored. The sky is their region. That's their domain, and it's monitored. We are not flying anything. Not a drone, not any type of plane, not any type of helicopter. Everything we fly in their domain gets monitored. They're chased, and constantly dragons are beside them. So you can video that for yourself. So what do the dragons want to do? There's one agenda: to continually colonize us humans. Take a look at the monarchies. Take a look at the elite tactics to continue to this day worship the dragon. Read a little history. As little far back to, let's say in Kenya, Ghana, 1948, they stood against the monarchy for their independence. They knew and they wanted, let the people govern the people, not dragon worshiping power control. It's the same reason Israel When they had their first king, they were tired of Jehovah, Yahweh. They were tired of worshiping the dragon's punish and reward system. That's why they demanded a human. They want human to govern humans. Just because your elite look humans, I'm telling you right now, they are lizards. They are reptilians who can shapeshift. And whatever, at this point, I can't believe there's anybody out there at this point doesn't understand about flesh costumes. You can look like anybody. Do not ever think you're looking at an actual human. You should be able to discern that. Hopefully, most of us, indoctrination, those layers of indoctrination we've all gone under, it'll start being removed and we'll be able to see it and discern it. Again, just look at the people when they were waking up. They were tired of being controlled and the monopoly that the dragon had on them. That is going to topple. Read again, that is in 1 Samuel 8. I did a series of videos, I think there were 6 videos called Pluto in Aquarius. That is a 1 Samuel 8 kind of moment when they just topple the monopoly and they ask for a human. So again, nothing new under the sun, this will return. Once you read about the people before Abraham, if you were to go back and hit, all of this is available, guys. I've downloaded these books. They're still available. You can read about what was it like before the God of Abraham, the dragon of Abraham came along. What were the people about? How was society? How was culture? How was mindset? Go read before Abraham, before the serial killing dragon Jehovah Yahweh came in. All right, they were peaceful traders. They were forging alliances among each other, and they provided for each other. Once Abraham's dragon comes along, the dragon starts a continual war. And living on high, the people now traumatized, they're living on high alert. They're living through scarcity. Leave no human or animal alive. You know, we start this whole 40 years of nomads in the desert with a ration of manna, which, by the way, that manna only lasted a day. It would spoil after a day. They hated it. They hated whatever that fake food was. It kept them in a perpetual state of trauma and anxiety. Just like, and I know how that feels. I live it every day. I live it every day. That when you psychologically control and damage someone to the point that it doesn't get undone, and it just carries throughout your life. Even though I'm not in a state of scarcity or any of that, the trauma is still inside. It basically imprisoned in my own little cave here. I don't do much outside of this little cave. So that's these people. These people have chosen these dragon gods. So let's just look at the truth about the Bible dragon gods and the love of his people. You can read along with me. Let's just read this attitude, this hate that God has on his people. Now you know that our Father in heaven is nothing but 100% unconditional love, right? Now we can better understand what this other God is. Has nothing to do with the Father in heaven, has nothing to do with Jesus. Jesus separated himself from all the terminology in the Old Testament. All right, let's get started. Proverbs 1, 28 and 29. Then they will call upon me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but will not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. Okay, you're going to hear me say Lord and God a lot as I read these verses. Just replace that with dragon. It has nothing to do with our Father in heaven. It has zero to do with our Father in heaven. It has everything to do with Jehovah and Yahweh. I've established it very clearly at this point. That is a dragon. Isaiah 1:15. When you spread out your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Even though you make many prayers, I will not listen. Your hands are full of blood. Jeremiah 11:11. Therefore, thus says the Lord, behold, I am bringing disaster upon them, that they cannot escape. Though they cry to me, I will not listen to them. Does that sound like your Father in heaven? Deuteronomy 1:45. And you returned and wept before the Lord, but the Lord did not listen to your voice or give ear to you. Is that our Father in heaven? Ezekiel 8:18. Therefore I will act in wrath. My eye will not spare, nor will I have pity. And though they cry in my ears with a loud voice, I will not hear them. Do you understand how many people are still following the dragon? That still read this with scales on their eyes and they don't understand? That is not our Father in heaven. Micah 3:4. Then they will cry to the Lord, but he will not answer them. He will hide his face from them at that time because they have made their deeds evil. Lamentations 3:44. You have wrapped yourself with a cloud so that no prayer can pass through. Hosea 5:6. With their flocks and herds they shall go to seek the Lord, but they will not find him. He has withdrawn from them. Our Father in heaven never withdraws and always hears everything and answers everything. You know that, right? You guys know that. Amos 5:21-23. I despise your feast. I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. Even though you offer me your burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. And the peace offerings of your fatted animals, I will not look upon them. Take away from me the noise of your songs. To the melody of your harps, I will not listen. Zechariah 7:13. As I called, and they would not hear, so they called, and I would not hear, says the Lord of hosts. Now, let's go back and take another look at David. All right, King David. He's now a little wise. He's older and he's wiser. And he does not want a war that he cannot win, of which Jehovah, dragon, has told him to go participate, go start this war. Jehovah has been sending him into war, as you read in 2 Samuel 24. David instead now sends out scouts for 9 months and 20 days. And he is told back to him, the scouts come back to him and says, in total, there are 13,000 men who can fight with a sword. So David knows he cannot win. So David asks his seer, Gad, his prophet, Gad, if he cannot go to war, what will happen? And Gad, in verse 13, again, 2 Samuel 24, verse 13, Gad talks to the dragon. He offers up 3 different types of punishment. So David can pick what kind of punishment he wants. Does that sound like your God? 3 different types of punishment. In verse 15, you read that David now loses, I guess he didn't choose, because all of a sudden David now loses 70,000 men. Now read the rest of the chapter, 2 Sam 24, and see how it is this basic message. What is the basic message? If you boil it down, it's this simple. You do not think for yourself, you do not question my authority, and make up your own mind. You do as I say do, period. Or I will kill and destroy your humans. Do you realize how many of billions of people still follow this message? Do as I say do. The draconian power grab of all of human history. Once in a while, the people simply come together without fear, without compliance, and they say no more. We are taken over. Go take a look at recent history. Within my lifetime, I can see the Philippines, right? Remember that? The Philippines in 1986, the people standing in front of Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos's house, mansion. And after their 21-year of terrorizing the people, they were overpowered by the people's solidarity. And they, like the dragons will do and often has done, will flee into the mountains. And that same decade, 2 years later, or a couple years later, 3 years later, in 1989, we had the Romania Revolution break out. And within 24 hours, the president there and his wife lost. They lost against the people. 4 days later, they were dead. Later, we had Nelson Mandela, who walked to freedom and declared a new way of life, a new era for South Africa. All right, you guys know those stories. The rest is history. I'm not here to talk about history. I'm pointing out the fact the dragons and their UFO invasion is coming back, and we better know how to handle it. Not out of fear, but in solidarity. We better do the right thing. We can stop the dragon when the people come together and no longer comply to greed and corruption and indoctrination, aka religion. As what the people did, again, 1 Samuel 8. Cultures all over the world have long, I guess I would say, a long history of their memories and their stories. But not just of dragons, gods from the sky. So sometimes it's not dragons because we have the fallen angels, the host of heaven. That is a warfare military branch of fallen angels. That's the host of the heavens. So while you have plenty of stories about dragons throughout the Old Testament, then you also have the sky gods, the sky people. Okay, in Nigeria, they're called Edo, the Edo, E-D-O, the Edo people of Nigeria. They know that there are non-human, yet they rule over the people. And these rulers, the head of this Edo people of the sky, the leaders are called Ogiso, of which Oba means leaders that rule over them. If you go back to Norse and the Greek, it is the epic story of Gilgamesh. And they have a hybrid, half sky god, half human, hybrid king Enlil and his brother Enki. That's the oldest story that I can see. I don't see anything that goes past Gilgamesh. That's the oldest one I've found so far. I could be wrong. There could be older ones. I just haven't found them. I haven't read them. I've read that. All right, so you also have good guys. You have good ET, good sky gods, good whatever you want to call it, whatever name. And I'll get into Asherah later on, because Asherah was known as the Queen of Heaven by Jeremiah, and is still to this day celebrated. She came down and talked about, or I shouldn't say talked about, but taught people how to evolve and improve their way of life. Mostly she taught agriculture. She taught how to farm and how to use animals, domesticate animals for help in their farming. And to this very day, indigenous cultures all over planet Earth still celebrate her because she helped them improve their way of life. Most of those celebrations are called corn or maize festivals because she's known as the queen of agriculture and fertility and prosperity and longevity and a better way of life. So it's not all bad. It's not all bad. At times, we had intervention of good, whether you want to call it ET or maybe a holy angel, it doesn't matter, but there were at times help for the people away from the draconian stranglehold that most of the people on planet Earth has been under. All right, now let's go to 2 Kings 23:4. And the king commanded Hilkiah, the high priest, and the priest of the second order, and the keepers of the door, to bring forth out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels that were made for Baal, and for the grove, that's Asherah, and for all of the host of heaven, and he burned them without. Jerusalem is in the fields of Kidron, and carried the ashes of this burning unto Bethel. So, let's first be clear. What is the host of heaven here? Host is number 6635, Hebrew word sabah. It means army, warfare of the sun, moon, and stars. So sky people, they go out to war. Heaven is number 8064, and it means the visible sky. So literally, if you were to think of a movie that has everything correct, it's going to be Star Wars. And if you can remember the bar scene in Star Wars, one day when they all come back around and when they all appear, it'll be interesting to see how humans handle it. Anyway, sky armies need to be understood. They're absolutely coming back in 2025, next year. That's what we're talking. That's like in 2 weeks or something, 3 weeks. Like today is December 8th, 2024. It'll be here before you know it. So why are they coming back? Well, because there needs to be another reset. It's been since about 1830 that we've gone through a reset. The elite knows this. They understand the cycles. They understand nothing new under the sun. They know when to do something. They know when to get a handle, a stronghold, a stranglehold on the people. So, and when I say elite, however you guys want to think of it, just know that they are not human, but they appear human. They are hybrids. We're all hybrids to some degree. Nobody's seed, except Jesus, has gone unmingled. Nobody's language is unconfounded. So we always need to keep that in mind. The sky armies are going to come with all of their tech, and they're going to do what humans cannot. So why do we talk about the sky armies? Well, because Job talks about them. All right, the dragon tells Job about them. Job 38, let's read 31 to 33. Canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades? Sweet influences. That's why I say Asherah is probably a Pleiadian, because she did something good for the people. If you understand why they're celebrated, why they keep turning away from Jehovah Yahweh and keep going towards Asherah, as in Solomon, and building many temples for Asherah, is because she did something positive of which the dragon gods were not giving the people. She did something to influence for the evolution and the betterment of life. Now we can understand this. Can humans bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Can thou bring forth Mazzaroth in his season, or canst thou guide Arcturus with his sons? Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou set the dominion thereof in the earth? So the star systems named here are also known throughout planet Earth. Indigenous tribes all over the planet, since man was put here, they exist in every old oral by mouth story. They exist in the collective psyche of man, humans, period. We are made, we are genetically tinkered with. After a few hundred years, they come back, this genetic program that's set up on planet Earth. That's what the Bible is nothing. If the Bible is about one thing, it's genetics. That's why all of this beget stuff going on is trying to teach you about this genetic experiment that's been going on the planet since humans have walked upright. I don't know what was going on before we walked upright, something though. So what happens is they come back at times to upgrade and at other times to downgrade. If we are too intelligent, if we become like the Platos and the Copernicuses of the world, then we get downgraded. We get smacked back down. You're only allowed to be so smart. You're only allowed. You can't go beyond. We only have like one intelligent person in a generation, meaning Plato or Copernicus. That's just two come to mind. There's a lot more. You know what I'm saying? We can read about the evil ones in Psalm 58. Read about the divine council that the fallen dark council of Psalm 82, and then understand who they are in Psalm 58. What they do is they come back and they put in our brains, to this day, we know that we have what's called inhibitor genes. They turn off all of our ability to actually be a God-given real human, as Adam once was and Jesus was fully. We can't do like Jesus because of the tinkering they have done on us. So, we can't be a real boy, right? You see the Pinocchio story unfolding here? You can't be a real boy. We're not a real human. We've been genetically modified. And to this day, I got genetically modified today because of the amount of chemtrails that are in the sky. I just got downgraded again. So let me just point out something. One of the books that I got, this is really interesting, you guys. You're going to love this. One of the books that I got is by the top dog in Israel, right? In Israel, the top dog, his name is Professor Brigadier General Haim Eshed. He is the chief of Israel's space security for the last 28 years. Why do we need space security, you wonder? Does anybody wonder that? But we have this Brigadier General Haim Eshed, chief of Israel space security for 28 years. He wrote a book. That book is called The Universe Beyond the Horizon. And it tells how Israel and USA has been in contact with these beings that I just got done talking about, with these beings from the stars for decades. He also talks about other governments have other alliances. They too are in contact. They're in contact with the beings, these beings, in other words, the star people are in contact all not only on planet Earth, but also Mars. And our government, as transparent as you think it might be, why are they not telling you about this? Why are we not hearing about the contact on Mars? So these beings have been giving us technology, not only for interplanetary travel, but also for interstellar travel. And that we are already collaborating with people on Mars. And that the good star beings, whatever they are, have been preventing nuclear disasters here on Earth. Meaning they stopped the explosion that could have happened in Chernobyl, 1986. Everyone should know that the UFO was seen over that reactor. And since his book has come out now, of which the star gods gave him permission. Let me repeat that. Okay, he couldn't release his book until he was permitted. And why would they do that? Why now has this book, it was released this year. Why would they do that? The star god, he literally opens up the book in the forward. The star gods gave him permission to release it because it's time for disclosure. You guys remember a couple years ago, the Prime Minister of Russia also said the same thing because he didn't know his microphone was live. And they let that be. They let that to continue. That could have been scrubbed. It was not scrubbed. The star people allowed the Prime Minister to say what he said about them on a live mic. All right, I better end part 3. Potter out.